Welcome to the Icebox builds. I'm looking forward to this one. Welcome to the Icebox builds. This is going to be a fun one today. Today we're building a computer. Not just any computer, we're building my computer, and it's the best computer ever. And if you don't like it, you can just stop watching the video. Don't stop watching the video, I need you, please. I love you. So before we get into the build, I just want to go over a couple things. I've been sitting on this damn thing for about 6 months now, trying to build it, and every little thing has gotten in the way. Everything that could possibly happen has happened, and so now it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I just got off work. I'm gonna get this damn thing done because I want it done. I need my computer. My laptop is ancient. My laptop was about 2 years old when I bought it. It's like 8 years old now, and it's dying. The fan sounds like it's having an aneurysm every time I turn the thing on. This entire build was built around this graphics card right here. This card was so hard for me to get my hands on. I tried Amazon, I tried the Asus website themselves. It's a bit easier to get it now. The problem was when I was trying to get this card, everybody wanted between $700 and $1,500 over MSRP. Even Newegg wanted like $700 over MSRP, if it was even in stock to begin with. Places like Amazon, they were never in stock, or you could buy them used for like, again, $1,000 over MSRP, and the Asus website, forget about it. As soon as they come in stock on the Asus website, they completely sell out after like 15 minutes. By the time I get through the whole order confirmation thing, it was already sold out. I get a message, sorry, try again next time. So, after scouring the internet, looking for a 4090, I came across a website called gamertech.shop, and there it was, the RTX 4090 Asus ROG Strix. It was all there, and I was like, this is 100% a scam. So I clicked off it, completely ignored it, never even looked at it again until I was on Reddit, because I have a little bit of a neck beard, so I have to go on Reddit a little bit, you know. And somebody else was actually asking a question about gamertech.shop. And everybody in the replies was like, yeah, it's a great shop, it's a great place, you should absolutely support them. So I went back, they still had a 4090, an ROG Strix 4090 OC, which you might notice this isn't an OC, but we'll get to that. I bought it, and 3 days later, I got an email saying that my order was canceled. The owner reached out to me and said, we apologize, there was an issue with our stock system, and it was showing it was in stock, and it wasn't. However, we do have a white 4090, so we'll give you this thing, same price as the other one, you know, let's make this right, since it was our mistake. And I said, yeah, absolutely. That being said, and of course a week later I got it. Their shipping was super fast, it was great, I got it. However, it's not the OC, which is fine, and it's white. And I've never built a white computer before. And I was not planning on building a white computer because, I don't know, I've never been into white computers, I guess. Thankfully, most of the products I had selected were available in white, including the case. So, gamertech.shop, I'll link them down in the description. They're fantastic, they were super great about the whole process. They kept me up to date on everything, and you know, they made a mistake, they made it right, and that was great. I would support them 100%. Go check them out. So let's start going over the parts. Obviously we have the 4090, we already went over that. It is going onto the ROG Strix B650E-F. This motherboard, it's got built-in Wi-Fi, it's got, you know what, here, I can read off the fancy stuff on the back. It had USB 3.2, it has an AM5 socket for the Ryzen 7000 series, which of course we have right here. We have the Ryzen 9 7950X3D. It has built-in, you know, that's what I love about these motherboards. They all say built-in Wi-Fi, but you can clearly see there's a giant ass antenna that goes on top of your computer, so it's not built in at all. It's outside. It's outside the computer. Yeah, it's not built in.
If it's built in, you can be outside.
We got 128 gigabytes of Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB. I don't really care about the RGB, but it was white, so I got it. Now, You might notice that this is 5600 megahertz RAM, and if I'm not mistaken, this only works up to 5200 megahertz. However, one of the fancy things about AM5 sockets, it'll actually automatically downclock the RAM to make it compatible with the CPU, and yet we can go into the BIOS and manually set it. That way, my sideways.
Why is it leaning?
Because your hand is leaning. It takes a little getting used to. So we've got 128 gigabytes of Dominator Platinum RGB. We have a Core Liquid S360 Triple Rad. It's an all-in-one cooler right here. We have, of course, the Noctua thermal paste to go with our three. Well, it doesn't go with the fans, it goes with the CPU cooler, you know that. Along with our Noctua thermal paste, we have Noctua fans, 3 of them, 140 millimeters a piece, because apparently the front of this computer can fit 340 millimeter fans. I have my doubts. And I'm going to say this right off the bat. I have not built a computer in probably 8 years or so. When I was building a computer, DDR3 was just now becoming like the standard thing that you have. And if you had 16 gigabytes of RAM, you were hot shit. Now I have 128 of DDR5, which I thought was only in graphics cards. The graphics card has DDR6. The CPU, this thing has 16 cores and a clock speed of 4.2 gigahertz, but it boosts up to 5.7. And I remember somebody making the news because they were able to overclock a CPU. I believe it was like an AMD Phenom or something like that. They were able to overclock it to 5.2, and it was groundbreaking, and it was in the news. Now this thing just casually runs at 5.7 gigahertz, 16 cores. So a lot of this stuff is very new to me just simply because I have not done it in such a long time. It blows my mind. Now this isn't just a computer build, we're actually doing the full setup build, which is why we have things like the Rival 600 mouse. I do have a mechanical keyboard. I couldn't find the box for it. Mechanical keyboard sitting down there by my shoes. You might also notice the Go XLR down there, of course, because we have the Shure SM7B, which is also an empty box.
So the fact that's full screen there.
Now, you might have noticed the Go XLR down there. That's because we have the Shure SM7B, which if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll have already heard that because that's why it's an empty box. I've been using it. My laptop has caught fire, but it is not dead yet because I am doing a dual computer recording setup. Now, my laptop does not have USB 3.2, otherwise I would have the 4K version of this. This is just the 1080p version of this. Eventually, I will upgrade my laptop, or I'll get a different laptop or a different computer. Maybe I'll build a streaming and recording computer. I don't know. But essentially, the idea behind this is that this is hooked up to my monitor. So that way, my laptop is recording everything that my desktop is doing. That way, I'm not trying to record while also playing games on one machine, which, I mean, I have a 4090 and a 7950 X3D. I know that's not going to be an issue for anything as far as performance goes, but it's just going to be one of those extra things. If you've ever used OBS, you know how annoying it can be to capture certain games. Oh, last but not least, I completely forgot about these. We have, how could I forget? This is like the staple. We have 12 terabytes of M.2 of NVMe. 12 terabytes of NVMe. All right, let's get all of this off the table and let's start the actual PC build. All right, so I know what you're thinking. What's in the box? You probably weren't thinking that, you probably don't really care. But I'll tell you what's in the box. For whatever reason, I ordered this thing brand new, and this is how they shipped it to me. I have my suspicions on whether or not it's actually brand new. This is the power supply, right? Fully modular, lots of fun stuff.
Something inside there.
Lots of fully modular. Was there something inside there?
I heard it drop on the.
Oh, yep, right there. Screws, we don't need those.
Okay.
Alright, so 1600 watts. So, like I said, I have not built a computer in a very long time, which means I have some old-fashioned ways of thinking about building computers. One of those is the bigger power supply, the better. Now, I understand a lot of people have opinions on that. Here's my thinking behind it. It might be an old way of thinking, but now I'm not so sure because this has an eco mode on it. But the idea is if your computer uses 650 watts of power, and you buy a 700 watt power supply, then your computer is going to be running at like 95, 100% constantly. Well, like 90, 95% constantly, but still, it's going to be running at that high capacity. Your fans are going to be wrapped up. You're going to kill your power supply a lot faster than, say, if you have an 800 watt computer running a 1600 watt power supply. Then, if you have this thing fully, like, pedal to the metal going, your power supply is still only at 50%. So it's going to last longer, it's going to stay cooler, you're going to have less issues overall. Again, this is a much older computer building way of thinking. It's just one of those things where I don't want anything running at 75%, let alone 90. Plus, with 1600 watts, I can upgrade for years to come without having to even worry about this. This one is a vertical GPU mount because I have a white 4090. I'm not going to hide it away. I want to display that thing for all of me to enjoy. Yeah, give me those. So naturally, of course, to start this PC build, we're going to be starting with putting the motherboard together. Put my anti-static bracelet on, for those of you who are paranoid, which back in the olden days, you could fry electronics by looking at it wrong. Always hold on to this. So, depending on the company, in fact, I recommend holding on to the box. Some companies, like Asus, are very finicky about their warranties. And with a build this big, warranties are actually, to me anyway, is important. And a lot of companies will not give you a warranty unless you have the original box. If something happens to your board and you want to send it back to Asus to get some work done, and you don't have the original box, they might tell you to pound sand. Oh, that's the built-in Wi-Fi antenna that's not built in. So AMD, the pins used to be on the CPU itself and would slot into the correct slot. And so it was really easy to make sure your CPU is oriented correctly. However, with these new CPUs that AMD has, the pins are on the motherboard and the CPU is completely flat, which is a new thing to me. I'm going to close that. I'm not doing the CPU yet. That is a heatsink. Wow. So even the M drives have heatsinks. Man, hard drives have gotten so small. The last hard drive I had was about the size of this, the 2.5-inch hard drive.
Yeah.
So now a friend of mine told me that this motherboard was a little awkward, and that I should put in one drive first, install the operating system on it, make sure all the drivers are installed, and then put in the other drivers. And like a good friend, I'm going to completely ignore his advice. Is it the 45-degree angle and snap, or do we just brute force it? All right, now please. Now, that just twists and locks it in place. Wow! All right. Technology, cool. Always cut towards yourself. Also, the closer to the eyeball, the injury, the higher your workman's comp pay is. Is that actual thermal? That is 100%. Is that a thermal pad or is that actual like thermal gummy paste? That is like thermal gummy paste. Okay. Nice and solid. It's gonna keep my drives cool. So I guess these things might heat up. I don't know. I've never really played with these before. All right, our hard drives are in. That's crazy because usually the hard drives wouldn't go in until like halfway through the build. Now I'm gonna put the RAM in because I like ramming. That was awful. It snuck up in the back of my head. It was like, say this, it'll be funny. It was not funny. All right, we
It's not fucking funny.
So now, back in the olden days, we put in like maybe one RAM stick, turn the computer on, put in another RAM stick, turn the computer on again, put in the other RAM stick, just to make sure that everything would function. But I'm going to put all 128 gigabytes in and hope that it works. Does only one side pop open? What? Only one side pops open. If you just had two RAM sticks, you put one sort of like there and then one there. You always have a slot in between them so that it would run as dual channel. And it actually says on the motherboard right here. So it would want, if we were just doing two sticks of RAM, according to that right there, we would want one stick in this slot and then skip that slot and put another stick in this slot. Oh, that's so weird. Now it's time to install the CPU, which I intentionally did last because I'm scared. I've never actually installed one of these types of CPUs. I've always done the ones where it just sort of clicks in. So I always love these CPU boxes. They're always so fancy. That whole box was just for that. This is why it costs so damn much to ship anything anymore.
Oh shit, that shit is heavy.
Yeah, which is crazy to me that has 16 cores in it, because the last 16 core, no, I only had an 8 core, and it was like long, so that's crazy. Completely flat. So again, like I said, there used to be pins. Gold triangle right there on the CPU. Gold triangle right there on the slot. Just make sure those match up. Just like that. Alright, so the NZXT H7 Flow. They always have two different types, well, Flow White. But they have two different types. They have one that's the Flow, one that's just, I believe, just a regular case. The Flow has, as the name would make you assume, as you would assume due to the name, as the same name would assume, this has lots of airflow. It's got a vent, it's got vents on the back, it's got vents on the top, it's got vents on the front, it's got vents on the bottom. This feels like actual glass. Oh, it lifts up, okay. This feels like actual glass. Not plastic. Oh yeah, temple glyph. It's temple glyph. It's tempered glass. I will put that right behind me because I'm sure that's a very safe place to put it. And last but not least, let's pop the back off.
Okay, need another mint. Grab one more. You can digital if you.
This is another reason why I like this case. Look at all this cable management. And it even comes with Velcro. So you just run all your cables in through there. This I like. So usually, in order to get to this bracket right here, you have to pull the whole motherboard out. But this has a window, so you have access to it. It's like those early Hondas that give you access to the fuel pump under the back seat, so that way you don't have to drop the whole gas tank. Are mechanics nerds or are they cool? I don't know. I like these. You open them up like a book. Chapter 1, your biggest fan. And I'm going to totally take advantage of my fans and arrange them for optimal airflow. The back opens up too. With a bunch of information I don't really care about. So now that one's in. Alright, these seem to be working actually. Alright, that was easy. Just it. Alright, there we go. Alright. Now those are mounted. Wow, that's actually pretty fucking solid. There we go. Look at that. So we got our 3 fans mounted on the front. We just having big old heat sinks on it that I can hold on to. We should be good to set this guy right on in there. Yeah. Just like that. And because this fancy thing comes with a built-in I/O shield, look at that. So I don't even have to click anything to it. Oh, it's flush. Oh, that's fancy. Okay, so after a brief panic, my motherboard did not come with the screws that the listing says it is included. Now, I think this might have just been an oversight with my specific package because all the reviews said yes, it came with screws. However, NZXT pulled through, and in this little box right here, we have every screw we could possibly want for this thing. Let's go ahead and start doing the power supply now. So we're going to lift this thing up, just like that. Do this a little backwards, just because it's going to be hard to get to the power supply. I'm going to plug that in first, because that is going to go right back there. So these are both the CPU pins right there. Click. So that's that CPU cable in. Alright, this thing I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing because I haven't actually seen it yet. I haven't even opened the box. No clue what this thing looks like. Now we'll be going right up top. Right there. There's an all-in-one cooler, so the coolant's already inside of it and it's just ready to go as soon as it's hooked up to that. Now, the only thing, I might have to change that mount on it for motherboard 1. I have to change the mount that's on my CPU already. Just like that. Cool. Alright. That's the thermal paste right there. Of course, I have my own fancy thermal paste that I'll be replacing it with. They have patterns that they recommend, dot patterns. The most common is you just put a single dot right in the center, and then that's it. However, with these larger CPUs, I think they do expect you to use multiple dots. I'm going to do what the directions say, just like that. And then we'll do one there, one there, one there, and one there. I'm going to get everything plugged into this that I need to get plugged into it, and then we'll go ahead and put the card in. Is it that one right there? I think it's that one right there. Let's see if it plugs in. Plugs right in. Front panel I/O. Doesn't go nuts, so it goes in this one. Hey, right there. All right, perfect. Okay, so now, because we got 3 front case fans that all need to be plugged in. Fan number 1 is going to give us the first 2 fans, and then we'll just do those off of where it's all moved. So those are all hooked up. So that's hooked up, that's hooked up. I believe everything that needs to be hooked up is hooked up. All the fans are on, everything's connected. Only thing that's left is the graphics card and the power supply unit. I have never done a vertically mounted GPU before. I've seen them, but I've never done them myself. So I have no clue how to do this. Hopefully it came with instructions, we'll see. This is the cable. So now that's the plate that goes on there. That screws to that. Like that. See, this is what happens when you think for yourself. You're wrong. Look at that thing. What's in the bag? What's in the dime bag? Oh my god. It's an ROG Strix ring. Oh my god. So, I'm guessing anybody that gets like a special light edition, does it fit? Look, it fits out. How is it? It fits. Oh my god, it fits. Now can I get it off? I thought that was plastic. It's not plastic. That's all metal. Wow. That is amazing. Most unsatisfying peel ever.
Okay, perfect. Now we can change that thing.
Ah, here we go. And that went right in. How about that? Did I get it? And I cleared the RAM. Holy crap, I did it. That looks pretty badass though, I gotta say. That looks pretty freaking cool. I do wish the card was a little bit lower, but there ain't nothing I can do about that. That's pretty clean, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, no, I got it. There we go. So that's just my graphics card hooked up. So that's the CPU. There's the beefy guy. There's the beefy guy. And I do believe that's it. This goes fan facing down because it has its own sort of ventilation. I mean, that's it. All that's left to do is cable management in the back, button it all up. I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. I'm sure my cameraman's exhausted. He's going to bed. Hopefully not while driving. I have to clean up my living room now. This isn't supposed to be a studio.
And this guy used up all his brain today.
Okay, so here's a bit of a strange one. So, obviously all 4 RAM sticks in, it was like, nope, not gonna do it. So I put 1 RAM stick in, A1, and it wouldn't pick it up. I had the yellow light, it would not detect it at all. I tried a different RAM stick, still wouldn't detect it. So I moved that RAM stick over to the B slot, which like supposedly you're not supposed to do, and it posted. And it told me to enter BIOS setup. So I enter BIOS setup, and I've been staring at a black screen for like 5 minutes now. Supposedly this can take like forever to enter the BIOS setup. There we go, 5 millionth time is the charm. It loaded up. Oh my god. Okay, so we have it all hooked up. We have the monitor, keyboard, all that stuff hooked up. So if I hit the power button, I can have my Elgato hooked up. I don't have any audio hooked up yet, but hit the power button and ta-da! Starts right up. The first try. Starts right up the first try. I didn't have to do anything. That's a total lie, by the way. Actually, I'll sort of take you through the steps of what I had to do, because it was really weird to get this thing to start up for the first time, because it would not boot at all. With the configuration we built it in and everything you see currently, it would not boot up. So I had to remove the graphics card. I had to remove 3 sticks of RAM and boot it up with only 1 stick of RAM. Now, the manual specifically says the RAM, if you're going with 1 stick of RAM, you put it in A1. So I put the stick of RAM in A1, and it would not detect the RAM at all. Completely would not detect it. Didn't matter how long I let it sit, the orange light would stay on. And for whatever reason, this motherboard, the channels are like mislabeled, I guess, I don't know. But I had to put it in B1. Once I put it in B1, it detected it. And I was able to install Windows 11, get all the drivers I needed, update the BIOS. At this point, I was able to shut it down, put all 4 sticks of RAM in, boot it up again. It took a little while to like initialize all 4 sticks of RAM, but it eventually figured it out. And then I shut it down. I installed the graphics card, and every graphics card I've ever installed, even if there were no drivers, you could still like plug the monitor into the graphics card and it would still function right. No such luck with this one. I had to plug it into the motherboard, install the drivers for the graphics card. So it was a little weird to get it all figured, and it took me a little while to figure all this stuff out. Mainly it was trying to figure out the RAM, which slot to put the damn RAM in so that it wouldn't ram in. I like ramming. Figuring out which spot to put the RAM in to get it to frickin' boot up. Because one guy on Reddit was like, wait, put the RAM in the wrong slot, it'll work, trust. And I was like, alright. So I put it in the wrong slot and it worked just fine. The only other weird issue I had, if you remember, we hooked the graphics card up to 4 separate cables instead of using the splitter, which would only be 2 cables. We had 4 separate cables, and the little red light would come on the graphics card saying that there wasn't enough power going to it. So I don't know if it was something weird with the power supply or something weird with the graphics card, but I literally had to use the splitter. So 2. So I figured, 4 would be better than 2, but the graphics card didn't like it at all. So now the graphics card is hooked up to 2 cables with splitters on the end, and it was perfectly happy with that. It plays games like crazy well. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 had some really weird stuttering when I was trying to benchmark it, but turns out it was just the VSync, because
Rockstar is really good about their games being super high FPS, and they don't require you to limit the FPS at all in any of their games. So by turning on VSync at 60 frames a second and limiting the frame rate to 60 frames per second, got rid of all the stuttering, which is great. Games like Subnautica ran fantastic. I tried a couple of other AAA titles that have higher graphics quality, I guess you could say. The loading times are insane. I mean, Skyrim, which is loading screen hell, would load instantly. Like, absolutely no delay going in and out of buildings and whatnot. The screen would fade to black and it'd immediately fade back into the game. Most surprisingly, Starfield ran crazy good on maxed out everything. Every possible thing, even the experimental crap, maxed it out and it ran fantastic. Red Dead Redemption 2, surprisingly, gave me a little bit of a headache because I could run all settings, including like the FXAA at times 16, and it would run like absolute crap. So there were a couple weird little tweaks I had to do with it. Again, Rockstar's not really good at optimizing their games for higher performance computers, which is funny because you'd think higher performance computer, game runs better. Yet you have to manually limit the games in order for them to run better, which I think is just kind of funny. But apart from that, everything else I tried on it ran absolutely beautifully. I am super happy with this machine, and I need to get the audio set up so I can start streaming and recording.